I agree. Just when we were working on our film, there was a sense of humility. I think that we all had, not just for the franchise itself, or the legacy of it, but just for dinosaurs. That these creatures were actually here, and I think there's this layer of humility that sort of falls over everything. That even with the character actually speak of it. That these animals show us how new we are, and how small we are. And I think we felt that way as filmmakers. I don't know if when you were making it, I knew you were making something special. Did you feel as an actor that your character would go on to be one of the most iconic characters in the history of movies? Did you know?
No, certainly no, certainly not. But I mean, if we, no, certainly. But we knew the book was, very beautiful, and Steven Spielberg was uniquely masterful, and I guess we got wind. You knew better than I do. You guys knew better. He didn't want to start, Steven Spielberg, without knowing that we could do something pioneering in the visuals of those things. So yeah, I think we thought there was a good chance. I mean, I did, but certainly was surprised at what happened to it. You never, as we know with many movies, you can combine brilliant elements, and it's never a guarantee that the whole thing is going to work, be good, or be enjoyed.
Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. Now for today's video, we're going to talk about something that's just opened up. I'm going to give you my full thoughts and opinions on Jurassic World The Ride. At the end of July, Universal Studios finally opened the attraction to the public, with Chris Pratt, Bryce Dallas Howard, and Colin Trevorrow kicking off the whole experience with a big celebration. Well, not too long after that, I actually paid for a plane ticket and headed straight for LA in order to check this thing out for myself and give you guys the full rundown on what to expect. Now, full disclosure, Universal Studios actually reached out to me and gave me 2 free tickets to experience this thing. They heard I was headed over to check out the ride and offered to let me into the park for free in order to do so. So I want to give a special thank you to them for giving me the opportunity to do all of this. It really means the world, and without that ticket, I would have had to pay over $100 on top of the $1,000 that I had already spent to get there. So yeah, really appreciate it. Of course, this gave me 1 extra ticket that I didn't really expect to have, so I decided to take a fellow Jurassic friend along who had yet to check out the new ride. And that dude was Greg Wong, a guy in the community that you've probably heard of before, because he's the one responsible for Jurassic World Exodus, the fan film that was shot on location in Hawaii with guys like Garen Thumb, True Exodus, and Jamie freaking Costa. Greg and I are actually really good friends, and since he lives in the area, I figured I might as well see if he was interested in checking all of the new stuff out. Which, of course, he was.
That is so cool. Oh, man. What is that?
A lot. But enough of all of this non-important stuff. You guys probably want to get straight to the point and talk about the actual ride. Well, after having come all the way over to California in order to check the thing out, I gotta say that I am pretty happy with what I saw. In fact, I'd go as far as saying that Jurassic World The Ride is actually really, really cool. And it's something that I think fans of the movies will probably really enjoy once they get a chance to check it out for themselves. I think my biggest takeaway from the whole thing is just the fact that when you're actually sitting in the raft itself and not looking at the ride through the confines of your handheld smartphone, it's surprisingly 10 times more satisfying. I know that sounds like a no-brainer type of thing, but it really caught me off guard when I was physically there. Videos don't really do it justice. Speaking of videos, one of the first things I asked Universal when they reached out to me was, where can I film in the theme park? And the first thing they said in response was, not on the ride. Well, that left me in a bit of an awkward situation because I'd already promised you guys that if I go, I'd film the whole thing in order to show those who would be unable to go the full experience. Plus, it's not like I could just take my phone out and start after they told me not to. I mean, that would be both wrong and disrespectful. So I asked them if they could possibly share footage of the ride that they'd already filmed themselves. And yeah, they actually said yes. So expect a full video that goes through the entire thing up on the channel very soon. But yeah, if I'm being real with all of you, I gotta say that I really enjoyed the ride. Even though I'd already seen it on YouTube before I flew out, I was not expecting to get anywhere near as wet as I did when I actually rode the thing. And man, let me tell you, if you go on this thing in the near future, expect to get soaked as soon as those gates open up. When the Mosasaurus comes from the side to kill the great white shark, a massive amount of water gets thrown on top of you from the aquarium, and it had me dripping wet from the top of my head all the way to my shorts. There was actually a guy sitting next to me who thought it was a good idea to film the whole thing with his cell phone, and as soon as he got hit with the water, he tucked that thing back in his pocket real quick. No joke, that water gets you like ASAP as soon as you open those gates. As far as the Mosasaurus portion of the ride itself goes, aesthetically I think it's probably one of the highlights of the whole experience. Both this portion and the very end are something that I can't really praise them enough for, but I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. Next up came the moment where we float past the Stegosaurus and Parasaurolophus. If you've been watching some of my videos on the ride before in the past, you'll probably know that upon initial reveal, my thoughts were that 75% of the ride looked really great, while a certain element really took me out of it. And that element is, of course, the old animatronics from the Jurassic Park days. Last year I attended the 25th anniversary event that Universal Studios held for the first movie. That night was the very first and only time that I actually got to experience Jurassic Park the Ride. And I gotta be 100% real with all of you, when I actually experienced the ride in 2018, it had most certainly seen better days. Things that I had anticipated since my childhood simply didn't work anymore. The Ford Explorer that the T-Rex was supposed to push over the concrete wall didn't even budge, and the Ultrasaurs were having a really hard time moving their colossal necks up and out of the water. This is why I was surprised to see the old Parasaur and Stego animatronics still being utilized for the Jurassic World ride. Particularly the Stego, because that thing was designed before the Lost World came out, so it doesn't look movie accurate when you compare it to something like the JP ride in Japan. Well, now that I've gone ahead and ridden the ride for myself in person, I must say that while I would have preferred them creating new animatronics for Jurassic World, neither of them were as distracting as I thought they would be. The baby Stego that comes from the Orlando resort was a nice addition. First time I've seen that in person, and I enjoyed it being there despite it also not being accurate to the baby from JP2. So in short, my biggest criticism of the ride upon initial reveal has sort of softened with the actual experience that I had. Do I wish that they were something like a Sinoceratops and a Baryonyx? Oh, you bet, absolutely. But I'm really kind of over that whole thing right now. I'll touch on why I felt and still kind of feel the way I do towards the end of this video, but moving on through the ride, I gotta say that up next, Predator Cove and the ramp up to the Indominus and T.rex were pretty cool. If I had to single out one specific thing from here on out, I think this ride does a tremendous job with its animatronic effect for the Indominus Rex. That thing looks incredible. In fact, I kind of wish they would have used something like this in the actual Jurassic World movie, but oh well, too late now. Oh, and the Dilophosaurs are looking great too. Be prepared to have water spit directly in your direction, and once again, get soaked from head to toe when floating past them. Oh, and Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard do a really good job at immersing you into the world of Isla Nublar while you're out there, by the way. So kudos to them for putting in movie-accurate performances that enhance the experience. Then comes the drop. And I don't know how they did it, but man, it really felt like the drop was 10 times more epic than it was when I rode on the JP ride last year. Again, I don't know how. Maybe it was because I wasn't really thinking about the drop last time, because I felt like my seat was coming up after having seen those Ultrasaur's broken necks come out of the water. I started having thoughts like, this is it, huh? This is how I die. Well, people are going to be laughing their asses off at my obituary. But anyways, that was all Jurassic Park, and this new drop is all Jurassic World, and I don't even think they changed anything. It's just an 85-foot drop. But yeah, it thrilled me. You plummet 85 feet straight down and feel your stomach sink while your heart rate elevates. I had the biggest smile on my face, and I wouldn't trade anything for that awesome experience. Really, really made me feel happy to hear that epic John Williams score when I touched down. Can't stress that enough. Absolute blast. Just be warned that if you want to go right now, Jurassic World The Ride is absolutely packed. I knew immediately when I walked into Universal and saw everyone making their way to the very back of the theme park that this was going to be filled with families, and wow, was I ever right. Greg and I actually had to go out of the normal line and into something they call single riders line. This is where they will pick you one person at a time to fill up the boats that have already sat people and families who've come in a group. This was early in the day, but it still only took us 20 minutes of wait time to do this, versus the probably hour plus that it would have been going through the normal line.
Look at this line.
We are going to talk to Dr. Henry Wu, Chief Geneticist at the Jurassic World The Ride.
And that's just like one part of the line. Like, check this out.
Here is Henry Wu to tell you his story. After earning a PhD in genetics, Dr. Henry Wu was immediately hired by John Hammond, CEO of International Genetic Technologies, to recreate extinct animal species via cloning. Now,
How many people do you think are in this line?
Work has resulted in the ability to incorporate elements of an extinct animal's DNA with the DNA
Probably
of an existing species.
Over 200 for sure.
Celebrated creation is the powerful
This is only half.
proudly housed at the park. I visited Dr. Wu at the Jurassic World Lab for an in-depth conversation about the science
It's massive, man.
how the Indominus Rex was created.
Look at this line. So you guys get the idea.
Okay, so now apart from the ride, I think it's important to talk about all of the other stuff that got upgraded in the park as well. And this, in my opinion, is by far the total highlight of the whole experience for me. There are currently 3 dinosaurs that you can actually interact with and see walking around the park if you go there right now. The first of which is Blue, the velociraptor who is now part of the raptor encounter portion of Jurassic World. She makes real raptor noises, has a trainer guiding park guests and communicating with her, and even has brief moments where she interacts with another dino in the park. And that other dino would be Tango, the 6-month-old baby velociraptor that's held by a trainer at all times. This infant dinosaur is surprisingly lifelike for a little puppet, and it actually looks far more realistic than something like Yoda or E.T. that you've all grown accustomed to in older movies. And just like Blue, Tango makes movie-accurate noises that help immerse you into the experience while you see her. I can't tell you how many kids were running over to the baby raptor and trying to pet it, especially the ones that were getting terrified of Blue. Now, finally, and what I consider to be one of the coolest things in the whole attraction is Julia, the really good-looking triceratops that walks around, eats bushes, and roars while trainers escort you around the animal. I know it's just a couple of guys in a suit, but man, I gotta say the detail on the skin and horns is incredible for a special effect of this size. They even make it so that the tail moves like it would in real life. I have no idea how they're accomplishing this, but it seriously impressed me. In fact, I'd really like to see even more dinosaurs like this come out in the future. Maybe a Stegosaurus or a baby Brachiosaurus could be super cool. Parasaurolophus, Sinoceratops, Ankylosaurus, anything more like this will certainly get people's attention. It was my favorite part. But yeah, apart from all of that, it's important that I talk about the redesigns that they've given to the park overall. And I gotta say, they did a pretty good job at making it accurate to the aesthetics of the 2015 film. The Jurassic World gates look pretty similar to how they did in the movie, and all of the surrounding architecture has been painted to look more screen accurate as well. Buildings like Jurassic Outfitters and a newly named Isla Nublar are pretty awesome, and they come complete with some Lost World bongo music by John Williams that can be heard over the speakers. Another part of the park that got a total overhaul would be the Jurassic Cafe. However, this particular redesign came with the removal of something that I personally wish had stayed, and that would be the incredible artwork that was done by Greg Pro way before the second movie ever came out. Now, some of you might be wondering, why do I care about this getting changed and don't seem to care about anything else, especially the ride? Well, that's because unlike the rest of the original Jurassic Park ride that was opened in 1996, this mural was pretty much the only thing that took inspiration from Michael Crichton's novels specifically, and not the Steven Spielberg film franchise. I've used some of this artwork in several of my videos over the years, and that's honestly because of how unique and iconic I personally think it is. Several different things like the yellow Parasaurolophus that can only be seen in Trespasser, as well as the baby Brachiosaurus and the camouflage Incarnatoris from the Lost World novel, all of that stuff used to be here proudly on display. And I must admit, this is possibly my favorite Jurassic painting that I think I've ever laid eyes on. But alas, the mural is no more. and in its place is a now film-accurate design to match the website and even video game aesthetic of Jurassic World and Jurassic World Evolution. Now, despite me saying that I miss it, I 100% understand on why it had to go. And to wrap everything up, I'd like to go back to the older animatronics that I talked about earlier. When I first saw that they'd left the older dinosaurs in the ride from 1996, I was a little confused, because everything else that I was seeing was top of the line, brand new, and themed accurately to our modern world, spared no expense. However, the Parasaur and the Stegosaurus were oddly not. Let's go back to the year 1970, where the previous undisputed king of special effects dinosaurs was born. This movie was called When Dinosaurs Ruled the Earth, and it featured a blonde cave woman who encountered several different species in this harsh prehistoric land. For years after this movie had come out, the stop-motion effects were praised as being the most realistic and lifelike depiction of dinosaurs that we had ever gotten in a modern Hollywood movie. Iconic scenes like the Elasmosaurus crawling onto a beach were mixed with the equally impressive Chasmosaur attack. It was even nominated for an Academy Award way back then. Now, several years go by after that movie had been released, and eventually, Steven Spielberg would release a little movie called Jurassic Park. And I don't have to fill you in on why that movie overtook the 1970 film and became the end-all be-all of dinosaur effects. At the end of the movie, that iconic scene where the Tyrannosaur roars after she's defeated the raptors and the visitor center banner falls from the ceiling, that's actually a specific reference to the baton being passed from that old movie and onto the new special effects champion, Jurassic Park. I bring this up because I honestly think that innovation and new ideas deserve to be celebrated in this franchise more than anything else. I'm fully aware that there are some out there that would rather Jurassic Park the Ride never have been touched and instead continue to exist the way it had, acting as a sort of museum or snippet of time that would forever be unchanged. And in my opinion, that's quite simply not the Jurassic Park way. Had Steven Spielberg opted to choose stop-motion effects over the newly crafted CGI, the film wouldn't be anywhere near as celebrated as it is today. But it's because he refused to submit to the older ways of his forefathers that the movie became a pioneer and new standard for everything that would come after. We currently live in a weird, nostalgic, hipster age, which is best illustrated in the first Jurassic World movie by a parody character named Lowry. That first park was legit, they didn't need these hybrids, you remember his lines. Lowry may wear the JP logo proudly on his chest, but he represents everything that the groundbreaking story was trying to move away from. I understand completely why Jurassic Park was retooled for Jurassic World. I understand why the redesigns happened, and I understand why they needed to happen. If they'd remained the way they were and the animatronic dinosaurs continued to deteriorate, the legacy of the franchise would become a snapshot of 1996 and nothing more. In the modern age, we have a Triceratops that walks around the park with a lifelike design, a baby raptor that kids can run up to and pet, and a brand new Indominus Rex robot that looks even better than the effect in the actual film. We have a Mosasaurus that will splash water your way as it devours a great white shark. And we even have a new walking Velociraptor animatronic that communicates with the hybrid just like what happens in the movie. This is the kind of stuff that I love about Jurassic World The Ride. It's big, it's new, it's bold, and it's making its mark in a lot of cool, inventive ways. Would I love to see more dinosaurs? Absolutely. And I think there definitely does need to be more in every single crevice that they could fit them in. But as it stands right now, I think the ride and entire Jurassic exhibit in general is something that I really do think lives up to its name. I had a good time hanging out over there, and I actually can't wait to go back. But before I do, I may check out the old Jurassic Park ride over in Orlando. I hear that one is in far better shape than what the old Hollywood one was in, so it'd be cool to visit them both for comparison's sake.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, one of the reasons that the three of us are even doing what we do is because of you guys and because of this legacy. And so, on behalf of the three of us, thank you so much.
Now before I go, I'd like to thank all of my game wardens, as well as all of my InGen executives. I'd also like to thank all of my park workers and InGen hunters as well. Guys, it seriously means the world to me that you all even continue to watch these videos, and I want to thank each and every one of you for all of your continued support. Now I'd like to thank all of you for watching this video and hope you all enjoy today's content. If you feel like I deserve it, I'd appreciate the like and hope that you'll consider subscribing if you're interested in hearing from me again. I'll see you on the next one, guys, and as always, take it easy.